poppin'?
People, welcome back to another episode of Appropriate as Fuck. It is your host, E. And
E, what's going on, everybody?
what's up, peoples? Hope everybody's having a beautiful week. E, how was your week so far?
My week has been pretty, it's been pretty full of things. I, it's actually officially week 2 of my marathon training. So that has been,
Run it up,
yes,
run it up.
that has been a journey already, just 2 weeks in. But
For many of y'all who may not have tuned into last week's episode, at the end, E unveiled the um, marvelous fact that she is going to be challenging herself to do a marathon soon. What is it? A 10K, 12K?
no. Nah, it's a half marathon. So 13.1 miles essentially. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I've been like it's crazy. I'm watching a lot of videos on different runners and like pro athletes who are like distance runners and people who like are like who've done Ironman contests and have done like ultra marathons where you have to like trek up like rough terrain, run, ride bicycles, all this stuff. And I'm just like, whew.
I know. And Andreas.
Yeah, it's intense, but it's crazy because it's like I feel like I'm really dedicated. Like like your algorithm on YouTube will kind of tell you what you typically watch. Like, you know what I'm saying? And mine's used to be a variety of random stuff, and now it's just like everything popping up is running. Like that's it. Running, shoes, how to build endurance, how to
Mm.
run longer, faster, like all that. So yeah, definitely happy about this. So
I feel like the running algorithm is a very particular culture.
yeah.
Probably lots of bob cuts, lots of lots of Lululemon.
First of all, you know what's crazy? I think I have like kind of been biased. It's not a lot of females on my algorithm. Like, mm, and the couple that I've seen,
Or
yeah, runners. Like the majority of the people who I'm watching are like males,
mm,
and I don't know why.
running routines that didn't hit your algorithm.
Huh?
Runners also do the Saratoga water in the face.
Heck nah. Man, you know what's crazy? I had seen oh buddy in a video like some months back. Just randomly stumbled across him, but he was like basically like I'm in a cut right now, so I'm only eating protein and vegetables. And he was eating like some chicken breast with some like mango sauce and some green beans. I remember very specifically what he had because I was like, oh, mango sauce with the chicken breast might be good because chicken breast is typically dry, so that might be good. But I didn't know nothing about him. He just was on my page randomly. Never looked at a video of his ever again until this popped up.
Mm.
And I'm just like, what? That's wild.
Things we gotta do to keep up going viral.
Yeah, he catching a lot of flack, but he's getting paid, so I know he don't care.
We go see him. We go see him on that next Super Bowl commercial from Saratoga.
Oh yeah, what's up? What's going on with you though? How was your week?
Man, we've been good. We've been good. Lot of stuff to hop into because I've just been. This is one of them weird moments where typically I am completely away from like the news cycle usually
Mm-hmm.
as much as possible. I catch a headline here and there, but I don't really care too much. I ain't about to watch CNN.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple things have hit lately that have just been interesting. Um,
Yeah.
it's definitely this Frisco track meet stabbing. Um, you familiar?
Yeah, I am. But like, can you give me a? So I have an idea of the events that took place, but I don't know what took place to lead up to these events.
Not too many of us do. It is still a developing story, and I'm not gonna turn this into a whole news briefing. If y'all want to catch up that deep, internet, you can do it. But a brief synopsis is a little minute ago, probably maybe 3 weeks now, altercation happened at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. Three high school students, one young black 17-year-old, I believe, and two white 17-year-olds at a after school, off campus track and field event, I believe. There was multiple teams out there, and a young man by the name of what's his name, Carmelo Anthony, K, not a C. Anthony, black kid, basically out here sitting in the bleachers. They suspect that he was seeking shelter from a rainstorm that had came across the event. Um, and he went underneath a tent that was put up by an alternative schools organization football club, um, which was the school of the stabbing victim by the name of Austin Metcalf. Um, Long story short, Austin and his twin brother approached Carmelo when he was under the tent and told him that he can't stay there. He can't sit there. This tent isn't for you. This is our school's tent, and they they argued that they had valuable items there. They were afraid that Carmelo might be stealing or any, whatever. A lot of hearsay here, but they ask him to move. Carmelo refuses to move. Beyond that, words were exchanged. We don't know exactly what was said, but played it to the point to where Austin, the white kid who got stabbed, put his hands on Carmelo. Told him, "Hey, you gotta get out of our section. Go somewhere else." Carmelo said, "Touch me and see what happens." Where Austin apparently touched him, and Austin had a little FAFO situation and got stabbed, tapped him in the heart, and he bled out and died. Very tragic situation. Um, no or jokes about any of it. It's all just kind of a tragedy. In that it had to escalate so fast to this level of violence.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of just the general, to me, this should just be, just a standard school fight, school altercation, off school altercation, because it was not on school grounds. But it's since been sensationalized by the media, of course, into a black versus white race baiting issue. And I wish it didn't play out like that, to become um, that type of propaganda that's kind of splitting and dividing people. It has been extremely telling, in that the two sides of arguments, um, have come out and kind of shown some colors in terms of what is and isn't acceptable in terms of self-defense in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have been, taken to Twitter X and, sharing all sorts of, racist, hateful comments and like I said, making this into a back and forth clash. My brief opinion on the situation, again, still waiting on information to come to light about what really happened, what led up to it, what sparked this response from Anthony. But this is a stand your ground state, right? I mean, you don't have a obligation to flee if someone's attacking you.
Mm-hmm.
This is showing that his twin, the white boys, went up to Carmelo and instigated.
All right, guys, we're back. So we had a little technical difficulties. If it's a little choppy in the beginning, just bear with us. You know how technology is. It's great, but it's not always on our side. um, so yeah, so you were just basically getting into the point. Well, let's back up a little bit. So you were saying that Texas is a stand your ground state.
Texas.
However,
Texas stand your ground state. You don't have an option to flee. Long story short, the question that's going to come out of this case is, because this is going to be a growing trend of young black men crashing out. I think that's just the modus operandi now in the heads of a lot of young guys. Maybe it should be, maybe it shouldn't be, but it's the way of the world. And I think we need to set a precedent on how we categorize self-defense, because I believe firmly you don't need to put your hands on somebody. If you put your hands on anybody, you run the risk in America of dying, period. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It doesn't matter if somebody should have had a weapon or not. Tell your kids and tell everybody you know, if they put their hands on somebody, don't expect a clean fight. Expect to die. Because that's the way the world is going. And in this sense, I don't think, Anthony. I'm hoping he make it out. I hate that he had to get in the situation, and of course, you got to deal with the consequences however they come. He in Frisco, Texas, so they go come at him. How they go come at him? The kid was on public bleachers. A lot of people arguing, like, oh, he should have moved. He ain't had no right to be underneath their tent. When it's a rainstorm, at any game, when it start raining, if you ever been to a football game, you ever been to a track event, especially if you're an athlete on the field for whatever reason, even if you're a civilian, but especially if you're an athlete, everybody running the sea shelter. Everybody just trying to get out in the rain until it passes over, especially if it was a downpour. Secondly, these were public bleachers. You can sit anywhere in bleachers. There's no designated bought place. Like, even if it's your logo, your team's tent with the logo, you don't have any authority to dictate whether somebody can or cannot sit there. Um, as is evidence, because nobody's come out and shown that anybody with any authority told Austin to move, because these kids did not go, the brothers, they did not go get a coach, did not go get an adult figure. They tried to play it on their own merit. I mean, I don't have any reason to suspect that they were hostile, but I don't also have any reason to suspect that they were just super passive and respectful, using the King's English of, hello, sir, may you please relocate for the premises of, like, probably not. Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some words thrown, probably some offensive words, probably some shade. And yeah, it's just it's an unfortunate event that the hypocrisy that's been shown though from white folks in particular, gotta say it, is pretty blatant, because I don't know if you remember, not too long ago, probably like maybe a year, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I don't know. But there was this event where this other dude named Kyle Rittenhouse was basically the kid with the AR-15 that got chased by the Antifa people. 17 years old, had an AR-15, wasn't legally allowed to own or possess an AR-15. Went through the whole case, got acquitted, and got acquitted for everything. Everybody coming up on Anthony right now, as far as like, oh, why do you have a knife? Why do you have a knife at a public event? Is he out there looking for trouble? The fact that you're coming at Anthony for that, but you don't come at Rittenhouse for having a fully loaded rifle in self-defense, and also the fact that he was acquitted fully under the Biden administration and did not have to pay any penalty for breaking the law in that sense, this is going to set a very, very rough precedent if they go full force against this kid in Texas for essentially a very similar situation with having a knife. I don't even think you have to be a particular age to carry a knife in Texas. But yeah, the racism is just the racism and hypocrisy is just kind of absurd and disgusting and annoying. So I just wanted to share that annoyance. Like I said, not get into the legalities and the lawyer talk of it all, because that's not my shtick. But
yeah, thank you for bringing that topic up, because there are a lot of things to kind of like unpack there. So, first, as it relates to the unfortunate reality that confrontation is going to surround us at some point or another, and then at another point or another, it's going to involve us directly. And what I mean by that is, like, no one can escape it, no matter your race, no matter, your age, whatever. It's going to be a point where something comes about that's going to test you. And the test is going to be, how do you respond in that moment to that situation? So for this young man, unfortunately, despite what people want to say, despite how far people think we have progressed as a country when it comes to race and racism, there are just some disadvantages that Black people are going to always have that people of non-color are not going to have. That's just the system that we have been living in. That's what it is. We've kind of accepted it as our reality, and it's not just Black people, it's people of color in general. But we're speaking about Black people right now because this young man is Black. Because we know this, right? Because we know this, and if you don't know this, then I hope you take these words as an introduction to the fact that that's what it is. We have to be very strategic in how we raise our kids and what we teach them. Now, to me, having younger brothers, it's like, all right, I got to teach you, because you mentioned the crash out thing for young men in America. I got to teach you how to control your emotions in the moment in situations that might be uncomfortable, that might make you feel less than a man, that might make you feel corny or lame, or might damage your ego in a sense, so that you can get to the next situation. One, because like you said, you get into an altercation, it don't even have to be physical. It could be verbal. You don't know what the outcome is. Okay? People crashing out now over arguments just like, hey, I don't like you. I don't like you. I don't like what you did. You cut me off. And that's it. You know what I'm saying? So it's not always physical. But because we are aware of these disadvantages that we have as a race, you have to teach your kids like, hey, you're gonna have to walk away from some stuff. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to be like Jesus, turn the other cheek and just let it go. Because aside from the stigma and the negative association of whatever image has been created for men of color, young men of color, you just got to think about like the system is not designed for you to win. So if you commit a crime, no matter how big or small, you can almost guarantee that it's going to be to your demise. Now, if you get a nice judge or a nice jury that's willing to be open-minded and really listen to this based on what's right and what's law, you might have a fighting chance. But that happens very less often than it should. So I say all that to say, unfortunately, in this situation, I wish this young man would have had the mindset to say, whatever y'all talking about, let me go on somewhere else. Because if it was a track meet with multiple tents that were up, maybe I could scurry over to the next one. Or, like, I don't know exactly what happened, but this is just an analysis overall of how do we, because this is really the biggest point to me. Like, we got to learn how to manage our emotions. We got to learn how to walk away from stuff. And that's hard, especially at that age, because, you got a lot of things going through your mind. Second, the response, like, if it was the boy and his twin brother, maybe he felt threatened. Maybe I feel like y'all gonna jump me. The only way that I can get out of this is to do something that I know will take care of y'all. Not to justify the stabbing at all. But in a 17-year-old's mind, still not an adult, still learning how to navigate confrontation, I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect myself. And in that moment, unfortunately, his idea of protection was using a weapon, which ended someone's life. And it's very sad. I'm not advocating for the bloodshed of anybody. I'm not like, yeah, well, this is what y'all need to see how it feels. Like, no. Like, nah, that's terrible. But, I really do wish that it would have played out different. Because now I don't want to hear all the backstory. Oh, he was a troubled teen. And at 14, he was stealing candy from Walmart. Like, I don't want to hear all that. Because, that's typically what happens next. And it's like...
They already brought out the pictures of him.
It's like, come on, bro.
Anthony got the Draco, the little East Side sign throwing up. And of course we got the Ratcliffe boys, got the two AR-15s in the woods with the camo, coyote hunt.
Yeah. Both
armed, but very different portrayals.
Yeah.
And it's really hard though, because I can't keep like these YNs, the youngins these days, they ain't about to hear this. Like,
yeah,
there's no reason to other than your own self-preservation, which should be important. But beyond that, there's no reason to be like just going along to get along for the sake of white people's feelings. Because with just life prospects in general just declining, just the American dream just kind of going away, the urge to crash out is just very high.
Mm-hmm.
Not only for black kids, for white kids, for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Was he a student? Like, was he a track team member?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was. I don't think he was a student for this school. He was.
Was he there competing for track, or was he there as a visitor?
I believe a visitor, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of pieces that go into it, but at the end of the day, the only thing that's really going to matter is the fact that the young man is deceased and that the black young man killed him via stabbing. And, that whole, I don't really fuck with that stand your ground nonsense. We learned when Trayvon Martin got killed that was some bogus shit. Like, oh, he looked suspicious and had on a hoodie, so I shot him. Like, I don't, that doesn't work in our favor.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's only valid if the assailant is black.
Yeah. So I don't really care about none of that. Like, unfortunately, there are certain liberties and certain rights that we just don't get. And I don't care what people want to say. I don't care whose feelings get hurt. I don't care what type of, I'm gonna go and show you in the books where things have changed. This the Constitution and the law, and like it doesn't matter. What happens is what happens. Um, and I say people of color because recently a young man was actually killed by police. And I think he was autistic. He's Hispanic, and he had a knife. And they shot him to death, like I think around 9 times or something like that. And he was behind a fence with the knife. He wasn't like approaching anyone. I think he was like lying in the grass or something along those lines, and he was killed. And I've literally watched videos of like,
Unalive. This video will not get monetized.
oh gosh, I'm sorry, unalive. My
We ain't doing
apologies.
all that. Anybody got time for that? We gonna make
um,
grass fruit.
but yeah, you know, it's just unfortunate, and this is our reality as people who are colored skin. It's just a sad space to be in. But you know, and that's why, you know, I understand what you're saying with the whole like crash out culture. It's scary because I think we've lived in a space of very like a very cushy reality where we've had problems, you know, in the United States and America. Like we've had problems. We've had things that we've had to deal with, from drugs to terrorism to different things. But our day-to-day quality and standard of living has not been that of a lot of underdeveloped countries. We have our issues. Everybody has their issues. Everybody got their problems. You know, no situation is good. But I think of countries like in Asia or like, you know, like India, like Cambodia, I don't know, freaking Vietnam, Korea, you know, like dang, at some countries in Africa, like what are y'all dealing with on a day to day? And have we just been so blind to the fact that this is what reality really is? Because I feel like the stuff that we're complaining about now has been the reality for people in other countries for a very long time. And we're just getting, you know, with the access to social media and access to so many things, we just get a front page or a front seat view of it now. And it's like, all right, oh, y'all going through that? We've been going through that for 75 years. You know what I'm saying? More to develop on that story. Like it's crazy, and it hits you harder when you have young people around you. Like I have a young brother, you know what I'm saying, in middle school and stuff. I'm like, this is crazy. Like what? Gun threats and different things. Gotta have metal detectors at a middle school.
Oh yeah.
We ain't have them problems. But that's another episode because who's raising the kids? Because y'all dropping them off at the bus stop and then telling teachers they don't need to get paid, but you're sending them off like it's a daycare. And while you go to work. Like, yeah, that's another story now for another day. Because, wow, yeah. So we'll definitely follow that and come back with some updates for that, guys, because,
Yeah, you know, they're trying to rile it up. But yeah.
yeah,
Another day in America.
yeah. So something I want to talk about um, is something that has really been a big topic for a lot of Americans, but not just Americans, countries around the world. What am I talking about? You guys probably can guess it. It's tariffs. If you didn't guess, it's okay. Now you're aware. So, President Trump, Donald Trump, J. Trump, has if you pay attention to the news, I mean, you don't have to pay attention to the news. If you're on social media, any platform, you should have heard about this in some capacity. So we have basically as a country, or not we, let me not say that. We haven't done nothing. Donald Trump basically told all these countries like, hey, I'm going to put a tariff on you that's really high and you're going to deal with it. And for those of you, let me just back up real quick because I don't want to be that person. Give me 1 second, y'all. I just want to define something so that I can speak from a place of knowing so that you guys understand. So basically, what is a tariff? Because you hear the word thrown around, it's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Okay, so a tariff is a duty imposed by a national government, customs territory, or supranational union on imports of goods. So basically, to summarize that in simple terms, it is a percentage of a product's value. What that could be like is like, huh?
It's a tax.
Basically, yes. That's the simplest way you can put it. Thank you, T. So yeah, so we all know about taxes. You file your income tax, you pay taxes on everything that you buy, pay taxes on things that you own. You know, that's just the way of existing. That's what we know, right? Taxes. And for us, you know, hearing, oh, tariffs, 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 more taxes. Yeah, he's doing whatever. Yeah, he's going to do that, and that's going to be good because they deserve to pay more taxes because they charge us money too. Well, as a consumer, I just want to go over a list of things where you're going to probably be hit the most when it comes to these tariffs. Some of these things you may care about. Most of these things you probably do. Others you might not so much. So at the top of the list, which is really interesting to me, is going to be electronics. So we know a lot of people in the world own a specific device that is owned by a certain company, and they use that for everything, and they're diehard supporters of this brand. What I'm talking about is the Apple iPhone. So this is going to be one of the more interesting points because I didn't realize this, but from what I've read, Apple iPhones are manufactured in China, like in their entirety. Maybe outside of like chips or things like that, which may be created by NVIDIA, but also might still be
Nah, a lot of
developed.
shit is made in China too.
Yeah, right. So, um, that says a lot. We're starting with the phone. That says a lot. What it says is the device, because you know, I was breaking down the cell phone the other day, not physically breaking it down, but thinking about like, okay, the cost kind of does make sense because if I were to buy all of the things separate that the phone is doing and combine those costs, how much would I be paying? So a cell phone, a GPS device, essentially a camera, a video recorder, a voice recorder, a calculator, you know, a compass, all these things combined, how much would I pay? So thinking about that, but that's completely random. So to put this in perspective in terms of numbers, the estimate of what you might see in a price hike is around $350, just based on the tariffs that we've placed on China. Now you might say $350, that's not a lot, but when the phone is already $1,200 and now it's going up to $1,550, that $350 makes a difference. Especially, which is one of the other things that has been impacted or will be impacted, especially when food prices are going up. So I don't know if you're a label person like me. Do you read labels when you grocery shop?
Not really. I did the other day when I was buying some apple juice. I was trying to figure out if I want to go with the organic or the in-store brand
Oh,
option. I see which one got less sugar. Literally every bottle had the same ingredients, 28 grams of sugar. And I was like, this, of course.
right. So I read labels. I've been a label reader for years. Um, it just comes with the territory when you try to live a healthier life. You just kind of adopt that. Even when you fall off, it just never leaves you. So one thing that I have noticed a huge increase in is the amount of food on the back of the label that says product of China. And you know, when you think of product of China, you think of like electronic devices. You might, you know, buy a little cheap charger on Amazon or Temu or something. And you're like, yeah, China, yeah, okay, yeah, we know they make everything, blah, blah, blah. But now it's not just your electronic devices or your little cheap odds and ends, it's your food. And I'm not talking about like one thing here or there. I mean, literally, I can go into a store and take a look at maybe 5 to 10 labels. Out of those 5 to 10 labels, depending on the store, I can guarantee at least 2 to 3 are going to say product of China. And that may not be alarming to some people, but to me, that is very alarming because what it says is either A, we don't have the capacity to grow the food here that we need, or B, we're growing the food and then for profit, we're sending it to someone else and then allowing them to send it back to us, which is typically what happens with seafood. You know, you're not getting no Alaskan salmon in China. It's caught here, shipped to them, they package it, send it to us to be sold. So, you know, not only is it electronics, our food is being impacted also. And the tariffs with that, again, think of like paying $20 for a piece of wild caught Alaskan salmon and that going up to about 35 because you want to get like the half of the fish that's been deboned and all that. It's insane. And it's like sometimes when I'm sitting back and I'm looking at the decisions that are being made, I'm like, do you think this is a video game? Like, who's really going to be impacted? Like, you over here like you got 3 lives, and the lives is all of us. And it's like, well, okay, it doesn't matter. We're going to do it, and it's going to be great. What?
Yeah.
So, and I can honestly say, because I was talking to my sister about this today, I'm one of those multi-store shoppers. So I'm gonna go. If I gotta go to 5 stores to get the best deal, I'm gonna spend that time and I'm gonna do it. Um, because it just makes sense to me. Now, some people, they're stuck on brands. They're stuck on, I have to go to this particular store to get these particular brands because that's what I know. Not me. And what I noticed is that if you aren't willing to kind of like divvy up the savings, if you really care about saving, you're not gonna be okay. The food is gonna be expensive. It's not gonna go down. And they know that you need it. So there's no incentive to bring the cost down. Because like hospitals and different healthcare organizations, grocery stores, typically, they're gonna still stay afloat. During COVID, I think that was probably one of the businesses where people didn't really get laid off because it's essential. We need food. We gotta eat. So I don't know. How do you feel about
Like
the tariffs? Do you feel like they're hitting you?
it'll be going up, yeah. And I mean, when it comes like, on the food, I mean, it's everything. It's food, it's the transportation cost to get any food or any product. It's the components of every product, the softwares and connections with different companies that use to advertise products. Tariffs hit everything. What the craziest thing about these tariffs to me is just just Trump's general chaos in terms of how he rolls out these plans. Because like just a day ago, when he was talking about like as far as the electronics, Trump announced that smartphones, computers, and a lot of chips are going to be exempt from the tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
And today he said that might change our mind on that. It might be short lived. So it's causing a broader instability in the market, and yeah, it's gonna raise prices. Prices are going to increase regardless, even without these tariffs. I think just because that's just the route that our economy is heading. I think we're just kind of in like a very late stage of a more broader societal like economic correction, where everything is just going to be. Everybody's trying to scrape up the last amounts of profit for shareholder value out of an already tapped population. America's already broke. We introducing Klarna to pay for DoorDash now. It's bad.
Pay for a meal in 4.
But one thing I did see that was interesting, one of my buddies, he had posted this on his Instagram to kind of give like a general idea of the reason behind the trade war. Because the trade war isn't just, to hurt the pockets of Americans. I mean, that's an effect of it for sure. But the intended goal of the trade war with China, particularly, because like I said, we've seen these other countries are exempt for now. But it is what I see as a possibility of basically creating a national, or not national, like a geopolitical standard of how we derive wealth. The Chinese model for wealth generation is a lot, very heavily fundamentally different from what we believe in more Western cultures. Because China is all about hyper expansionism and slavery, slave labor. The primary way that we in America have been generating profit and increasing our standard of living has for a long time been on the backs of Chinese slave labor. And that idea is, I think, just fundamentally anti-American. Like just the idea of the best way to build wealth globally is to decrease the value of human capital as much as possible to wreak out as much profit as you can from a particular product or sale. And that's kind of the Chinese model. That's the model that has been pitched, for making them the hegemonic power in terms of global trade. And if that model continues, I think that's going to be reflective of what we see kind of happening now in terms of wage stagnation in America, no promotions, no higher pay, lower pay, less benefits, increase in gig economy, more hours worked for less things owned, and being able to be purchased. And at some point it is going to have to come to a head. It's not something that, we can just say, oh, if we get Trump out of office, we can just keep riding it out, because the quality of life for all of us is going to continue to decrease. And it's just a matter of how long are we going to be able to accept this excess of cheap product from China at the expense of like our own prosperity? Because I'm at a point where honestly I don't even look towards, like, I don't even see like the idea of cheaper and cheaper products as a desire anymore. I don't want nothing from Shein. I don't want nothing from Temu. This constant overconsumption that we're getting only because of extremely low prices from China is, in my opinion, not healthy for us as a country. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do want one of them little $12,000 electric cars. Just bring them in for a little bit. But it's the trade war and the tariffs and everything like that is going to be a much broader conversation of how we believe the world should be set up in terms of economic consumption, and if we're going to be okay with slave labor. I think most of America is okay with slave labor. I think most people are still in that mind state of just wanting to, accrue capital by any means necessary. Doesn't matter how much pollution or, how much suffering comes about, as long as my Shopify is running up, we good. It's a broader moral question, I think, than just the immediate economic costs. But the immediate economic costs are horrible, and I think Trump's tariff policy is horrible. Even if I agree that the broader conversation that we need to have is going to be whether or not China is a moral trading partner, which I don't really think it is. The way it's being addressed is stupid. I don't know if there's a better way to address it, because not addressing it at all is also pretty horrific and corrupt, and that's benefited the top 1% for the last,
however many
century
years.
and a half. But yeah, it's just going to be a rough alternative to find, once we do make this hard breakaway from the Chinese model. What even a model outside of that would look like.
Yeah, and it is challenging to me. I'm just gonna piggyback off something you said. At some point or another, we were gonna have to kind of be slapped with the reality that we've just kind of been coasting along. We have this. Actually, I want to give the exact number, so let me pull it up. Because I don't think, and this is the side that people don't really want to take a look at and listen to. This is the unfortunate side. 1 second, because I want this number to be accurate. So I'm looking up right now. As of April 2025, which is this year, the United States federal budget deficit is approximately $1.3 trillion. And so we're projected by the end of the fiscal year to reach 1.9 trillion, and that number is going to continue to increase. Like you said, it's kind of hard to say how else it could have been done to kind of like, let's shake things up. But for years, we have kind of just sat back and, within reason of what we can and can't control, because we can't control the Fed printing money. We can't control, the way that those things go. We can't control the decision making.
One president tried. Well, shout out to JFK. He gave it a shot.
Yeah, and you see what happened there.
Mhm.
So, this has been a long time coming, unfortunately. And, it's like one of those things where it's like, we got to fix it. Somebody's going to have to suffer. And the somebody that's going to have to suffer is the American people. Um, and it's going to shake up our lifestyles. It's already starting to do that if you're really serious about what's going on. The standard of living, as you mentioned, Klaus, what is his name? Klaus Schwab?
Schwab.
Klaus? Oh boy of the, dang, why my brain not working?
I know what you're talking about.
I can't think. I need to give the words. What?
World Economic Forum.
Yes. Gosh, I couldn't get it out. He said it years ago.
The famous
You will own nothing and you will be happy. And when people hear that, they're like, "Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. It's crazy and it's happening." You're paying $300,000 for a townhouse on the corner of a sidewalk next to an expressway. And that's at minimum. You have corporate establishments buying up all the property and renting it out or leasing it out. You have homeowners who are basically being held at gunpoint, figuratively, from HOAs, hitting them with fees that are double or triple their mortgage, pushing them out of their homes through, liens and things of that nature. You have jobs that take advantage of the at will and fire you and then hire somebody else on a contract for 90 days or 6 months, and then they repeat the cycle. So the safety that we felt, the security that we felt, the American dream that everyone is taught about when we're growing up and going to school, it's no longer there. And
Now, that's something that not everybody agrees with, because that's a perspective of definitely Gen Z, 100% millennials, some of Gen X. But once you hit them old school, big McMansion communities, 6 bedrooms and a home theater,
who lives in that house?
boomers.
Exactly.
Oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, sonny. When it was back in my day, I worked fast food and had a newspaper route, and I got my first house when I was 22. Married Sally, got her a nice fat diamond ring, had 8 beautiful children.
And guess what? When because I don't like to go back and forth with people who don't want to change their perspective. I just want you to see the reality. When it becomes difficult for you to pick up a second job at a fast food restaurant, or as a waiter, or as a grocery bagger or whatever, when it becomes difficult for you to get that second job and pull yourself up by the bootstraps, which is what's happening now, then you tell me, what is the alternative solution?
And it's not even so much about that is a factor, the difficulty of getting it, but also when you get it, there's no wages to pay to afford these increases. Like, even if you work in 3 jobs, people, of course, there's some people make $250,000 a year. Some people are fine, a couple. But the vast majority of Americans, of all backgrounds, are being priced out so fast by this, what I just personally see as greed of people hoarding assets, hoarding properties. You got these boomers with 2 or 3, 4 houses and rental properties that they refuse to let go of, and values are artificially, in my opinion, being pumped up for these properties to where a house that's 30, 40, 50 years older than when it was first built, degrading, the communities around it are becoming littered with increases of crime, higher property taxes, less aesthetic appeal, just ugly, just walking houses and gas stations and Chick-fil-A's,
liquor stores,
zero investment in public infrastructure, transport, horrible schools, and this house is now worth 450% more, going from 110,000 when you first bought it now to 585,000.
It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I ride by houses literally, and I'm like, there's no way. And the crazier thing is that no average, that pull yourself up by the bootstraps, middle class American dream, no one falling in that bracket alone can afford to live that way or to purchase that. So where does it go? It goes into the hands of those corporations, and they just continue the cycle of leasing. They can go lease that out to somebody. Oh, we live in New York. The rent is $8,000. We moved to Georgia. We found this beautiful 6-bedroom home. The lease is only $4,500. And it's like, well, wait, you leasing that big old house for $4,500? Oh, somebody done bought it. Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, I don't know who. And management of funds is important. So if you make 6 figures and you're struggling, you might want to reevaluate, your living expenses and things of that nature. I'm not really talking to you. You go somewhere else and go talk to a financial advisor. I'm talking to the below 6 figures people. 2 household incomes that still don't crack the 6-figure, wall. And let me also preface this by saying, because it's always somebody that's gonna piss me off. It's no one's fault that their financial situation is what it is. That is their responsibility as an individual to put themselves in a position to get where they want to be financially in life. Okay, now that that's out the way, because like somebody, you gotta do what you gotta do. It's not my fault. I worked hard. Okay, you too. You shut up too. Okay. You an Iron Man of the working force. Okay. You worked 7 jobs at 7 warehouses all at once, was in the military, active duty, and had a family and volunteered in Kuwait. Like you're different. I'm not talking to you either. I'm talking to the average American who has gone through the education system, has been taught this is the way that you do it. You go to school, you get a job, etc., and you work hard and you get the dream. For those people, life is changing drastically. And as you mentioned before, it's causing a lot of crash out of all ages, not just, teens making irrational decisions, grown adult people.
Yeah. 45 years old, and I can't buy dang ramen noodles no more. I can't feed my family, and I'm about to go burn down this tech bros Tesla down the street and probably get his house up. And it's so sad to see, because it's we're in America, we're just kind of just a very unsympathetic culture in general.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not too much of anyone's fault. Like, you can argue like, oh, young people are lazy, they just don't have the same grit that, people used to have. No, young people have largely been finessed by the system. Like, remember when getting a computer science degree used to be the go-to route for a stable life? Tech jobs are now becoming the new fast food jobs, especially with the introduction of AI.
Yeah.
People who spent 8-10 years getting masters in computer science, cybersecurity, a couple of them maybe can eke out, a decent income, if they're in the right bracket. But if you get clipped from one of your, your initial high paying positions, you got to start over from scratch in the job market of today with those same credentials in the matter of 3 years. You're like priced out. You're now applying for positions that are paying 50% less and requiring probably like 25% more experience.
Mm-hmm.
And everything around you is costing 100% more. And you're being told to suck it up and, make something shake, get a Shopify account. And I hate that idea that this is what's going to like build the wealth of our society. Like not adding a real life value to people, not being a real skill. No, start another shampoo brand. We need another themed pair of underwear. Yeah, that's gonna make our grandkids. They're gonna be so thrilled to show that that's what they have and that's what their empire is about.
I'm laughing hysterically, and this is going to segue us into the next topic I want to discuss, but I'm laughing hysterically because I take a deep sigh because there has been a topic floating around social media, YouTube, regarding Black men in particular. And this topic has been the decline of Black men attending colleges. And so there have been a lot of people online giving their opinion, Black men. And I start this out to reference what you just said as it relates to starting another Shopify or something like that. I want to start by saying this. I'm not here to discredit anyone's dreams, your goals or aspirations, whatever you feel that you're good at, what you have a passion for, etc. If you want to make another hat line like the ones that have been made for the past 50 years and you just put a twist on it, not discrediting that. If you want to make another shampoo, like he said, not discrediting that. If you can find a way to build the client base and find the need for your product, you can definitely attain some wealth. However, the more serious conversation, as you mentioned, is like, okay, have we lost the desire to create meaningful stepping stones to the pathway of wealth? Have we lost the desire to seek out education, and put ourselves to a certain standard or certain level when it comes to obtaining knowledge and just having a skill set? Because it took me forever to graduate. I lacked discipline. I didn't really care about college. I saw that it wasn't really doing nothing for me. The examples that I had as far as like my environment weren't great about why I should take it serious. I just saw people working jobs and making money. So I was like, yeah, college, yeah, but what? So, women go to college. Women go to college of all races. I think a lot of women, even back in the day, when women didn't have access to being educated, even not even just black women or women of color, but just women in general didn't have the right, because college was created for white males, essentially, in America at least. Women go to college because they see the value in having that opportunity. I can get some knowledge. I can become a doctor. I could become this. I could become that. And then, of course, they started to create all these other, degree types that have nothing to do with nothing, unfortunately, because it'll show itself when you try to go get a job and you can't. But when it comes to black men, black women have surpassed them in terms of degrees and things of that nature. I had to throw around degrees because it can or cannot really mean something. It can in some instances, and in others, it really don't mean shit. But the idea that we're striving for something, you think about like Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, people like that. Even like Marcus Garvey, or, individuals who were really serious about educating themselves, whether it be a college degree or not. I just feel like we're losing that aspect. Why do you think that is, as a black man? Why do you think that's the case?
I mean, for sure as a black man, but more so as a man in general. In the modern context, I understand the reluctance to go to college. For context, for the audience, I did not go to college. I finished high school and I was like, I'm good. I'm so straight. But like you were saying, like in terms of like for the black man enrollment, historically, there was always this sort of hesitation and impediment for black men to get into college. One, because educated black men were systemically undervalued in society compared to educated black women for a long time. Probably still to this day, but certainly in the early days, post segregation, after the the social revolution of the civil rights era and things like that, black women were the first to be sort of introduced into these white dominated corporate hierarchies that valued university levels of education. The first black assistants in the building was very much more likely to be a black woman than a black man, for a lot of different reasons. Most of which, from what I've seen, is mostly because, black men are seen as more threatening, in a sense, to, white patriarchal dominance in these institutions. But in terms of like the modern decline, again, I don't attend university campuses, so all of this is on hearsay, but I've heard from a lot of different sources that the treatment and education style that's promoted in universities just doesn't really, not only does it not appeal to men, but it's not necessarily designed for men to thrive in. And I think that's mostly true in terms of, that's been true in America for a long time across the board in terms of our education system. Women are just a lot more suited to the standard classroom dynamic of sitting still, being quiet, absorbing information, following systems, following, rules and standards, whereas men typically are a lot more, you know, rambunctious and chaotic in terms of like their learning styles. They learn much more so through like deconstruction of concepts and challenging things and internal conflict and competition a lot differently than women do. Again,
Mm-hmm.
probably more so appealing to like the lower grade levels. But also I think a lot of the routes for education these days are just not routes that offer economic viability for men
Mm-hmm.
as they do women. Like men are not as likely to get a fair shake in terms of you know, they wanted to pursue a career in higher education. Whether that's systemic or just, you know, a byproduct of the fact of enrollment, it is what it is in terms of the vast majority of educators are women. The vast majority of um, you know, mental health professionals are women. The vast majority of a lot of professions that value higher degree in education are going to be women, whereas men are more so trending these days towards, you know, more hard trades, you know, trucking, industrial sectors like welding and um you know, I think all these factors kind of play into the fact that lead men to not want to go to college. And of course, we do have to, I can't let it go without also saying what I think is mostly the sensationalism of the Me Too movement, if you're familiar, for those who aren't familiar. Um, you know, the movement of demonizing and chastising men for exercising their natural pursuit for the of the opposite sex. Now I'm not saying that's what all the Me Too movement is about, of course. There are valid claims and defenses against sexual assault and harassment against women.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of being in a male dominated space, a lot of the social extracurriculars that are being taught are by and large anti-male, you know. If not certainly pro women, pro empowering towards the idea of female independence and female success stories, things like that. In a large way, it's also anti-male. And that's just a straight up discouragement for guys to be in any institution or any realm if we're not celebrated, and especially if we're like condemned in a way. I think that's what a lot of men are feeling. Um, and a lot of people argue whether or not that's valid or actually taking place in these institutions. But the feeling enough is, I think the feeling enough showcases, you know, it plays out in the reality of the decreased enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but I think just black men just ain't feeling the institutions of higher education like they used to. Just not worth the squeeze.
You know, and I am very proud of myself because I sat here and I listened to everything that you said and
I
I
know the people
nodded
moments he was probably like,
and I smiled and I listened and I did not judge. But let me push my glasses up. So I'm going to speak on like pretty much everything that you said. So I've had several male professors, different races, different ethnic backgrounds, very much so loved by all of their students. Like when I
several out
say
of what?
like, huh?
Several out of what? Like percentage wise?
Several out of my history of going to being in college, when I was in school at my last school and I was there for a year, I had about 4 male professors. When I was in my undergrad, I will say I had throughout my undergrad, I had about 5 to 6 male professors that I can remember because it was off and on so much. And then I did do some different types of online things, but I had a good amount of male professors and their classes were engaging. I learned a lot. They weren't just passing people, they weren't easy, like they were, you know what I'm saying, like these were meaningful interactions that we were having. And it's important to see that because it's like, okay, like, to your point, to see that representation is important because now it gives you an idea of, hey, I can do this also. But what I really question, T, and I'm not even trying to be funny, is do y'all even really want to do it? And I'm not saying y'all like y'all, but I'm just saying, is it a desire? Because the things that you can do with a college degree are vast. It don't have to be some basic BS degree, business or communications or some stuff like that. You can go be an engineer. You can go be a physicist. You can go be, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have options. What do you really want to do? And are you willing to put in the work? Because that shit is not easy. I know several black engineers who went to college. I actually know a couple of black doctors who went to college, male. I know people who have degrees that weren't the easiest to obtain, but it did pay off for them in the long run with their life and where they're going with their career. Now, the college thing is not for everyone because it does take discipline. It does take for you to be able to acquiesce to someone else's outline of what you should learn and what you should know, et cetera, et cetera. But when I'm on Indeed and I'm looking for jobs today in 2025, perusing the sites, LinkedIn and all that, and I'm coming across all these call center jobs and they're saying they want you to have a fucking bachelor's degree, help me to understand why you don't see the importance. And they paying $17, $18, $19 an hour, maybe 22 at the most. Why, you know what I'm saying? And that's not all, but it's becoming increasingly more common for these companies to say, well, you know what? We just want you to have this. You got to have a bachelor's degree to go be a manager at Enterprise. Did you know that? Like, and they ain't making no money for real. But that's a requirement. And they super stressed out. They get cussed out every day because somebody car insurance won't pay for another day. You know what I'm saying? So it's
the
like
argument that men should be motivated to go to college to work at Enterprise.
No, the argument is you need to see the reality of the world around you, and that if you're gonna do the entrepreneurial thing and make your own money, you can do whatever the hell you want. But if you're gonna go and say, I'm gonna work at these corporations' jobs and I'm gonna get my money based on their standard, you're gonna have to adapt and adjust to what they want. And if they want the degree, you're gonna be looking real hard. You're going to be working 2 jobs or you're going to get the degree. So what's the solution or the alternative? Because to be a customer service manager at Walmart, a step 2, if you haven't worked there for 10 years, they want you to have a bachelor's degree. And, these are just, I'm just pulling different scenarios that I've come across just recently looking online. But it's like, my problem is like,
degree, but do they want men?
A lot of the managers at Walmart that I've worked with have been men. Yeah.
I mean, sure. I'm not saying when men aren't part of the workforce, but by and large, is there a stated, explicit effort to recruit men for any of these positions, for really any position these days in the world? Because I can definitely point to explicit, stated preferences for recruiting women.
Well, I don't know if they're explicitly stated, but what I will say is that there is like the mindset that when it comes to managing teams and leading teams, that men are going to be less emotional. They're going to be by the book. They're going to be more inclined to follow the rules and reprimand people based on what it is versus a woman who might be a little more empathetic and might have a little more compassion for a low-performing agent or a low-performing, employee. Men are just technically deemed leaders by gender. So they have that natural or that given to them without trying in terms of a lot of things. So I think that if you have the qualifications and you're a male, despite what people want to say, men are still getting hired more than women. Women are more educated, Black women especially, but in terms of filling these roles, like men are still at the top when it comes to getting these positions. And there's a mix, of course, but the biggest thing that I want to know is what is the alternative? Because you don't have to go to college, fuck college. But what is the viable, realistic, attainable, sustainable alternative for Black men? And I think that's the conversation that gets skipped over like the cow that jumped over the moon. They don't ever tell us what you telling this Black man don't go to college. Well, tell him what else should he do? And you don't want him to technically go to trade school because that's still an institution. So what the hell do you want him to do? Be an Uber driver for the rest of his life?
He's an Uber driver after he goes to college.
Possibly, yeah.
So it's not, I mean, the thing is, although, you say that these positions are requiring college degrees for the thing, that doesn't mean that men are getting these positions. Many men have gone through the college cycle, many women too, but definitely many men have gone through the college cycle, gotten the degree, ended up with vast amounts of debt, only to qualify to be an Uber driver. So the value of the degree has to be shown by the outcome of what it can bear for you. And it has not bared a strong positive outcome for men who have attended. I mean, you can throw the general stat of, well, you're likely to make $1 million more in your lifetime. But even that's questionable. But it's like men are going to college and leaving, graduating with nothing to show for it, with very little economic opportunity that definitely doesn't have any significant relation to their field of study, but even more so doesn't bear like any economic like viability to where they can justify and say like, hey, this was a worthwhile investment. So I think men are just asking themselves like, is this an investment worth doing? And I think that's a valid question. I'm not sure that for a large percent of men these days it is.
So I understand that, and I hear that. And these are the points that a lot of the the men who are having these conversations will make. But again, because you got to do something, right? you can't live on this planet and not have capital.
Well, no, we'll always be around. Men will do something. They just won't be in college classes.
So what are they doing instead? I guess that's the question.
Instead of college?
Yeah, because the other thing is, not for all, but for some, there's a certain, and if you have this naturally, then you're blessed. But for others, it comes with the addition of going through those courses. The curiosity to learn, the curiosity to know things. Like I said, some people have it naturally. Like they want to gain knowledge. They like to read. They're interested in things. And then you have the people who need a little boost. They go to college. They might not necessarily agree with everything they're being taught. That was me. I didn't agree with everything I was being taught, but I knew that I had to go through that class to get this degree. Okay, whatever. But also like, okay, I like to read books. I have a library card. I go to the library. Different things of that nature. Are men alternatively educating themselves outside of Googling an article and getting results from ChatGPT? I'm not saying college is the only way to attain knowledge and to become successful, but what I am saying is, realistically, what are you doing as an alternative to keep yourself within the ranks of those who are at the top or who are succeeding, whatever success looks like to you? Not you individually, but you get what I'm saying.
I mean, black men are, systematically excluded from those realms anyway. So regardless of, even the highest HBCU grads, they still ain't gonna necessarily let you in. But I mean, I think it comes out of the question of, there's a strong deficiency in terms of male spaces or good spaces for men to garner education and build skills. And you could say like college is there, but the overwhelming consensus is growing that college is not assisting men in building valuable skills in life. It's not assisting men in, elevating themselves in terms of a greater social class. So I hear you as far as like, what else is there to do? And I don't think we really have anything that exists right now that is, really going to help men in that regard. But that's something that needs to be instituted. But I think that doesn't negate the fact that college and university is by and large not that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that college is the end all be all and that it's a guarantee for success, because it's not. But I'm also going to go as far as to say, like, we know all these things now. If you decide to go to college, like, what major are you choosing? Because you know that all the bullshit doesn't get you anywhere. So are you choosing something? Like, are you basing your choices off of passion, or are you basing it off of I need to be wealthy, so I have to do this to get there?
Even those ones don't get you there though. That's why I meant like with the whole computer science thing. You can try to choose the right degree, and the market changes, and then you're SOL. Like, a mathematics degree used to guarantee you, like something like $150,000 salary. Now it's folks with mathematics degrees that again they working at Marshalls because there's no roles for that skill set. Particularly for black men. If anybody's gonna get hired for the mathematic analyst position at the Goldman Sachs, probably ain't gonna be Keyshawn. Probably not. It might, but probably not. In terms of the grand scheme of overall competition, to go against the white women, go against the white men, and to go against the black women, Keyshawn probably ain't gonna be up in there.
So is that incentive to say I'm just not gonna do it because I'm not gonna get picked?
I mean, yeah, you got.
So you're gonna count yourself out. Just fuck it. I'm just not gonna do it because they're probably not gonna pick me anyway.
Well, again, you got to remember, this isn't a free thing. Like, it's not just like, oh, you just do it. This is a real financial consideration that men have to take, because if you do it and you don't have anything to show for it, all you have is debt. So that's like kind of saying, hey, are you just not going to utilize your $50,000 credit limit to try to start something just because? I mean, you can, but if you're doing it to start something that does not pay the dividend back in return, then yeah, you're just financially crippling yourself. I don't think it's necessarily a better. It's not a better deal than being at the same position you might be with the degree without that financial burden and without taking that wasted time where you could be accumulating real money in the workforce. Especially these days, you got to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
If gone are the days where you can just, hang out at the university and, have a Pizza Hut job and, make ends meet and ride it out. Especially if you want to, which this is the thing, you have to consider the real motivation that men go to college or pursue anything. It's for the sake of attracting a female partner, building stability, and creating a family. That's 99% of motivation that men do anything in life. And even outside of the issues in the academic space, also our general societal issues, which that goes back to like the dating problem, the fact that partnership formations between men and women is on the decline, divorces are on the rise, and men are by and large not as attractive to the vast majority of women as they were before, due to this imbalance or equity in terms of social prospect. We're both making $80,000. Kind of a bum.
I don't know nobody saying that, and that's fake news. So if anybody's saying that, like, nah, that's cap. No, my friend is calling him a bum if she has a job, she's going to school, she works 2 jobs, and you sitting on your ass talking about the system just saying for me. I'm against the system. Well, what are you for if you against that? Because I think in part the bigger question is like, all right, let's say fuck it, you don't go to a 4-year college. Maybe you go to a 2-year college, get a 2-year degree, get a trade, something like that, whatever. Or you take an alternative route, get a CDL, get some there is some sort of, even though it may not be traditional university, there is some sort of training, advanced level training, education that you will have to obtain to succeed in this country. There's no way that you can get around it. It may not be the 4-year route through a traditional university or college. It may not be a 2-year route or a junior college. CDL, you have to go to school. It's a short-lived thing. You have to go to school for that, and then you build your experience and learn along the way.
And CDL does not guarantee a success in this country, though. So
it will put you in a position to secure an opportunity when other people cannot.
I mean, like, sure, I guess, but that opportunity, again, does not get you what you want the opportunity for.
But that's, And the other thing that bothers me is that there's this idea that, I'm just going to automatically be successful because I did this. That's what's sold, I guess. Yeah. So I never thought that just because I graduated with my bachelor's degree that I was going to be successful or make a certain amount of money. I didn't feel that way. As a woman who has received all of the, you have the privilege, all the lists of privileges. I didn't think that at all. Because I understand how the world works. I understand how jobs work. I understand, I live in a real world. So these men, I know they live in the same real world and understand the issues that are presented to them, the disadvantages that they have socially, within the patriarchy, which was developed for them, but still they have those disadvantages. I understand that. So I'm going to be conscious of like, I got to move a little different. Nobody said that I was going to automatically attain success. Even if the people who I know who have those good jobs who are black men, they networked with people. It was a who you know type thing. You know what I'm saying? Black women too. It's a networking thing. Oh, this person helped me. They was my mentor. They got me the job. So it's never been a like, oh yeah, I'm just out the gate. Yeah, I know this is going. No, it's not real. That's fake. But because I see this and I know this, I know I have to be strategic and I know that I have to work harder and I know I have to do shit different. And I think that is the problem that I have. Like, we can make the longest list of excuses from here all the way to the continent of freaking Africa. And it'll still be room for us to make more. But what are we going to do to combat that if we know that we got to make it?
I mean, well, that also begs another question. Do we have to make it?
Well, then, yeah, he's a bum. If he don't want to make it, then I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to you. You can go live in your car. You can go, you know what I'm saying, go in the woods and say that you homeless by choice and go do that. Yes. Yeah, because I'm not going to live this life and work hard and not achieve anything for the sake of, oh, it's just messed up. Nah. If that's the person you are, then yeah, most women are not going to like you. Most women are going to hate you. Most women are going to say, damn, I bust my ass to get everything that I have. So what the fuck is he doing?
Let's say you do go after it. You do go through the education. You get the education. You get the credentials. You get the job. But again, in the realistic context of probably not the extremely high paying, high technical skill job that would warrant that level of female interest. So you're not buying the nice paid off car. You're not getting the house. You maybe can get, paying your rent, staying afloat by yourself. But if that's all you're doing, then, if that's what you're more than likely statistically, realistically going to achieve, why would you not just want to do that independent of getting the education?
Yeah, whatever route works for you to get to what your goal is. All I'm saying is, a college is not equivalent to education solely. Anybody who sells that lie is full of shit. And they're probably working for the college. Libraries exist, information exists outside of a university. It's just more streamlined to whatever it is that you're trying to do. But, and I say this with all respect. If you lack ambition, if you don't have any real goals, like if you just want to coast through life and live a simple, like I remember this dude got into an argument with me because he's like, why I gotta be a business owner? I just want to go to work and come home. You can do that. And you're going to keep eating Checkers every night for dinner and McDonald's for breakfast because your mindset is just small. It's like kind of like building blocks to me. Again, it doesn't have to be college, but it's like, what do I want to achieve throughout my days on this earth, my physical days, before I'm gone, before I reach my guaranteed endpoint? What do I want? And then I think when you decide what you want, then you can create the path based on that. So if you want A, B, and C, if you're not going to bust your ass, stay up for 12 hours after you've worked your shift, if you're not going to network with people and go into the uncomfortable spaces and do shit that's hard, if you're not going to push yourself and hold yourself accountable and say, yeah, I fucked up, whatever the case may be, if you're, whatever it is, then yeah, you deserve everything that you have. And if that's nothing,
you do bust your ass and go for it and you don't get it. You're saying like,
guess what? The sad reality is, oh fucking well. Nobody's here to save you. And I know that sounds very harsh. It sounds like it's easy to say. I have spent plenty of days crying to myself because shit was fucked up. I made poor decisions. I had good opportunities. I fucked them up being young. I had attained some sort of financial well-being and fucked it up because I made poor decisions in the moment. I held myself accountable. It's fucked up. I live in a country, in a world, capitalistic. I can't escape it. So what am I gonna do? I could take myself out because I'm overwhelmed and stressed. I can go do some crazy shit, put me in a cell. At least I know I'm gonna get a meal and a roof over my head. Or I can keep fighting. Do I want to? Do you want to fight? Do you want to continue? If not, this conversation is not for you. You can go, like I said, go do what you, and you might make more money doing that. Exploiting yourself online. That might be the route for you. Everybody wants this microwave, convenient, like, and I don't want to sound like a boomer, but you know, like, especially now, given what we've been given, like, they got the plate and the food was kind of like lined up in a buffet style and they had to just get to the table. We got the porcelain in a bag in a YouTube video. Figure out how to make your plate and then go to the next channel and figure out how to grow the corn that you want to eat. And then you can have your meal. We don't have the same opportunity afforded to us, but we also have access to more things that should allow us to be like, you know what? I got to figure something out. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not. But is that going to be the excuse? Or is it going to be the catalyst to make you feel like, you know what, I'm going to push through?
I don't know if it's the excuse. I think it's just more so maybe the alternative. I think a lot of guys are just finding a different strategy to be happy in life that does not correlate with the previous levels of expected success that are more increasingly unattainable. And that's bothersome to some people. But I think it's mostly
incels.
Huh?
You said incels?
No. But I think it's bothersome more so to women.
Bothersome, like, what do you mean bothersome?
Because let's say, we go on this general trend of growing percentage year over year of men going into the NEET category, not in employment, education, or training. So they're not getting mortgages. You're not accumulating high levels of resources. They're not doing anything that would necessarily make them attractive to be partners to women. But, they might be fine in terms of their own self-sustainability.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those men are bothersome to the women who want them.
Which is very few.
Exactly. So nobody cares. If you in this life, male or female, whatever you want to do, you can do. Okay? And that's without saying anything else. It's very basic. You can be what you want to be and do whatever you want to do. It's not a lot of women that really give a damn if you want to be a bum. Like, and you might not be a bum. Let me take that back. If you want to achieve whatever the standard is for yourself, that is fine. But if your standard for what achievement is does not align with who you may find desirable, you can't question it, because it's like, I'm gonna associate this with a material thing. If you want the Lamborghini, that's random, that's a really high achievement, you got to have the funds for it. It's no way to get around that. You can have bad credit and all that. You got the funds, you can run it up. But you don't get that Lambo without those dollars. So in this situation or scenario, the woman is the Lambo. You want to live your life at that level, that's fine. And it might be somebody that's going to accept that. But so many women are working so hard to achieve so many things to get to the place they want to be. You don't really have any value. You get what I'm saying? If you can't contribute to that in a meaningful way, or if you can't lessen some of that stress, especially if you want to step in and get the same respect as a person that's taking on the role of a provider, which is the problem with a lot of those men. You want the same level of respect, but you have not earned that respect in your merit. You have not earned that respect in the way that you lead. You have not earned that respect in the way that you show me how you're going to navigate life. You just said you're going to take the easy way out and I'm fine right here. I can make $40K for the rest of my life.
Now, I think it's telling when you mention that, it's just most people just don't care whether or not you do or don't. And I think that's indicative of why a lot of guys just aren't doing it anymore, because there's that apathy of nobody really cares if men fail. I mean, they care about the general end result of, hey, why don't we have all these high achieving men doing the high achieving things that we want to do? But in terms of caring about the specific individual, like males and their motivations and their outcomes, like where they are, most people, like you say, they don't care. And I think the
But you know
fact
why they don't care? You know why?
why
Why we don't care? Because do you know how taxing it is to exist as an individual? Just in this world right now, as a single individual, as a single woman, me, it is very taxing to exist, to make money, to make ends meet, to do all these things, to stay healthy, mentally, physically. How the fuck can I squeeze in the time to care if you want to do more with yourself or not? And I'm not trying to be funny, I'm being dead ass. The capacity is almost reached. I have to scan and revisit and revamp and recharge to make sure that I can be the best version of myself. If you're not already doing that on your
society
own,
cares about that as well, though.
huh?
To say, society also cares that you, as a woman, aspire and have the resources and means necessary to be the best version of yourself. Because that's stated through policy, through incentive at not only government, but also private sector levels, and also through just general social empathy. Like, people care. The world cares about women being happy
Yeah.
and achieving in ways that it just does not care the same for men.
Well, the unfortunate reality is we don't control the patriarchy. We didn't create it. We didn't set the rules. We didn't set the tone. And a lot of people, men, will use that to their defense to lessen the value of women. I'm sorry. There are injustices and, you know, you know, points and things that are just not fair. It's not fair. You know, that's why when women say, "Hey, you should go get counseling," that's the way that they're showing that they care, because it helped me. It helped me. You know, or maybe you should get some more friends. You know, because we're using the things that we know that help us in those situations. They might work for you too, since nobody else prioritized it. You don't think having a good friend group is important?
It is, definitely, but that's not what counseling is.
No, well, no. Counseling is different, and it's going to be a different experience for everyone. And as much as I hate to hear them little commercials that pop up all the time, the value is going to be different based on your own individual experience. And the plan of care is going to be different based on your own individual experience.
But we have
But
to, we cannot, the idea of what you said with, of, you know, like, it worked for me. That's the whole model of what we're doing right now, of we're introducing and pushing things that work very well for women and saying this should also work well for men, but it does not. And we're
so
not
then when do
saying
y'all
what
decide to say, like, that's the problem I have. It's always an objection
the
to every
question is,
fucking thing.
what works well for men.
Well, how will you know if you don't try stuff?
We have. Men were going to college. They didn't just stop going to college because they just got tired of making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, no, some men are still going too. Like, there are a lot of men that's still going.
But
It's
look,
just a decline. But that doesn't mean that they're not going.
but
It's
that
just,
decline is happening for a reason, and it's
yeah,
not just because I just don't want to achieve anything because I don't have any aspirations. It's because the system's not working.
it's because you want to make YouTube videos.
Not even. But the system of YouTube is working better for a lot of men than the system of college. Why is that?
It's because it's kind of like drugs, you know, like it's that fast, that quick fix. Like, you can make a lot of money doing this really quickly. And by really quickly, I mean, like, you won't have to spend the whole 10, 15 years building a career. You can make some money within a couple of years. You can, even for some people, like, they can blow up in a year. It's quick. It's like the microwave society, you know, like, let's keep it a buck. How many men really, like, if we're going to be honest, let's take college away then. Forget college. Let's go back to the boomer generation where they was working in them warehouses and building them cars and stuff. How many men really want to go do that?
I think a good amount.
Nah, you know why?
Yeah,
Because when I worked at the warehouse at Amazon, you know who was in there? You know who the majority of the employees were? And I'm not even saying this to be funny. It was women. So I really don't want to hear the shit. That's really what I'm trying to say. Like,
why were men doing it then? Like, why were they going into the factories in the boomer days? Because the jobs paid. Because you went to earn money to get the things that you wanted to get the house, to attract the woman. None of that exists no more. So it's
It's
like
not a good. It's not a good enough
we're not
excuse.
going to the Tesla factory. We're not going to the Ford factory to compete with this Chinese slave labor because I'm not gonna be valued as a Chinese slave laborer in America. That don't
Well,
give me nothing.
what you're telling me is that men are doomed. That's what you're telling me.
Society is working against men. I think society is working against people in general. I think society is working against humanity. Like the hierarchical ruling structures of society is working against humanity, but in particular is working against men. And granted, I also don't believe that this benefit that women are seeing from their increase in college enrollment and higher rates of education, I don't think that's going to last too much longer. I think once we in the next like 5 years, once we start seeing the major increase in AI and we start seeing these layoffs happening of many of these white collar, social work roles, in terms of HR, marketing, business administration, education, even. Like you said, we're going to see a lot more of men and women on the floors in the Amazon warehouse. The only difference now, though, is going to be many women are now going to be the ones, I think, pursuing that general standard of the American dream of owning their own house, of, you know, having multiple ventures and things like that, going on, lavish vacations, and basically there's going to be a role reversal happening. Um, but the thing is, will they be happy with that role reversal? I don't think so. I don't think men are going to be happy with their position either. But I think it'll be easier for them to be content with less than it will for women. Just generally based on just what we as a species like kind of go for socially. Because again, I think women are being conditioned more so to pursue these sort of standardized metrics of success in America, which I'm not saying they don't deserve at all, but it's going to be at a cost of a more long-term fulfillment. And that just opens up a can of worms that we can't get into in this episode, because who knows what that even looks like when the vast majority of grown men are just good with playing Grand Theft Auto 6 for another 10 years, whereas women are on their second mortgage and paying all the taxes and doing all the laboring in the in these fields alongside robots.
Yeah. Who knows what happens when a society sees you as invaluable? That's the real question on both sides. And I think to wrap this up, it is very important, not to say that college is the answer, but it's very important to maintain your value as much as you can, male or female. And an increase of like just not giving a fuck is not the answer. You can control what you can control, and what you can control is staying on top of the value that you add. Outside of that, you can't control anything else. But
I will say, I don't want to I want to come across though I'm advocating for men to give up, because I think that's also detrimental, like highly. But I just want to say I empathize with why men feel unmotivated and sort of discouraged from going through these routes, because there's just so much growing disenfranchisement that they're facing in terms of what they get as a reward out of it. So it's like, it's not even so much as men aren't. I think men, of course, should try to maintain value as much as possible, but I just don't know if the world is going to continue to value them with or without the previous credentials that were previously markers of their value. I think in general, the value of men societally is decreasing, and I think that's going to be a growing problem. Like, it's going to have ramifications in terms of, we're going to see the effects down the line in terms of how that happens. Once we see decreases in police forces, once we see decreases in these institutions that we really rely on: firefighting and,
Mhm.
manufacturing, working the oil rigs, energy, all of these things. And that I don't think that comes at the cost. Like, that's not a blame on women. That's a blame on the corporations not wanting to pay nobody.
Mhm.
But at the same sense, we're going to still see this gap and this decrease in men going through these traditional routes, that women are still seeing, for the time being, a more tangible benefit from achieving college, for example, that men aren't. But the real problem, I just can't stress enough, is the fact that corporations don't want to pay nobody. That's what's going to break the camel's back.
The back is already broken. It's already fractured. It's already fractured. It's just taking. It's gonna take a couple more hits.
Already paralyzed. He got
Yeah,
leg working.
it's gonna be a couple more hits. Well, I think this was an amazing episode. Definitely, like, want to get you guys' feedback, input. What do you think about these topics? Comment below the video. We'll include some links for y'all to check out, get some information on what we talked about. Got any final words for the people, T?
Hey man, final words for the people, man. Like you said, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what y'all think. Of course, and any time we hop into the gender war topic, it's always gonna be just a little more lively. I don't know why, but it's just all the rage. It's what's
Yeah, I don't know.
I want.
It's like a natural defense. I'm fighting for my people. You fighting for your people. Like, oh,
Meanwhile, ain't none of us getting anything out of it, but
right.
Bezos still making $3,000 a second.
Yeah.
Crazy time.
All right, y'all. Well, till next time. Thanks for tuning in to Appropriate as Fuck. We appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.